Other than that, how's everyone else doing? Deance's like, I'm dying. Whitewolf, Fonzis, how you doing, brother?
Want to sleep? I fell asleep like an hour ago.
Fine, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's what time is it right now?
11?
11:30. I was like waiting.
Yeah.
Fell asleep.
It's not even that late.
No, I was super tired. Like woke up at like 5 a.m. or something. So.
Hey, listen,
Yeah.
White Wolf is like 16 years old, okay?
Yeah.
He needs a lot of sleep.
When you're 16, you need the least amount of sleep. What up, Enthozz?
Yo,
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Hey man.
pretty good.
Good.
Very nice.
How are you, dude?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a long week at work, but I am very happy that it's Friday.
Yo, one more week and we're here.
Yeah.
One more, can't wait. 6
So
days to
hyped.
go.
So hyped.
Yeah, I've already told my management that I'll be leaving very early on Thursday.
You're like, yeah, I won't be here. I literally, I'm not even joking. I canceled the flight. I was supposed to go on vacation, and Stream all watched me tell my girlfriend. It's like, so they did announce that the release was happening on the 19th. I guess we can't. I can't go with you.
How did she take the news?
I had prepped her, so we're good.
Covered your bases, very nice.
Yeah, I was like, just know it probably like a month ago. I was like, it's probably going to be the 19th. I get it. But just know I probably can't come. I'm just warning you now.
Just got a raid on vacation, dude.
Yeah,
Good on you for prepping her.
have like terrible like internet at an Airbnb.
Hey, if I can podcast on my honeymoon, you can raid on vacation.
That's actually so true, dude. That's actually so true. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, but the main topic I asked everyone to join today was because I wanted to hear from you guys, from like everyone's perspective, Wolf's perspective from private servers, like Deance, Enthozz. Enthozz, I believe you cleared all the hard modes, right? In the PTR.
Yes, my guild cleared them all in the PTR with exception to Algalon, and then some friends of mine, wink wink, nudge nudge, also had some Warman experience doing hard modes as well.
Friends, of course.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
say
not
that.
me.
You can't.
Yeah.
I would have friends.
It's not like you could have turned on Enthozz stream.
Seen him doing log reviews.
Yeah, log reviews were great.
But in regards to the hard modes and the PTR and all that, I think that people are going to be in for a big surprise when they see just how much more difficult this content is in comparison to everything that we've seen previously. I mean, even considering Sunwell, which when it came out, everybody struggled on for the most part. This is going to be a big step up from that, like a very, very big one. And I'm curious to see how everyone does with it. Because we're going from what is arguably one of the easiest raid tiers of all time, classic-wise, which is Nax Wrath, which is everyone's just trying to pump out DPS as best they can. You're not thinking about defensive cooldowns. You're not thinking about strats. It's pretty much just tank and spank. And now we're going to Ulduar hard modes, which is very, very, very different.
I definitely think it's going to be a big shock to a lot of the casual core guilds that are clearing Nax in an hour and a half right now. They'll have an easy time with almost all of regular Ulduar, but I think there's going to be a major fall off like we saw in Sunwell with guilds 2-3 weeks into the expansion or into the patch, just completely unable to kill some of the harder hard modes. Like they'll get 1 or 2 easy ones and just get completely walled on stuff that's like actually requires some coordination.
Yeah, I think
But it's amazing.
It's so easy though.
It is easy. Yeah.
The normal modes, like I think just the big thing is always going to be like just stress to people, like just clear normal and then choose your hard modes wisely, because a lot of those guilds, like you have a set raid time, right? Like how long you can raid each week, and wasting time on like week 1 like Flame Leviathan hard mode or something is going to be it just takes time and coordination or people to understand the fight, and then it's super easy, but like it's kind of like a waste of time if you need to get through the raid. And the normal modes aren't terrible. It's the hard modes are a huge step up though. It's really fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And in the end, like even if you manage to kill all the hard modes and unlock Algalon, then you only have 1 hour. So it's really, really challenging this. Because like if you screw up like 3, 4, 5 wipes, and then you might lose it for the whole week. So this is crazy, man.
I think a lot of
Algalon-
guilds. Go ahead, Deance.
I think Algalon's going to be unattainable for a lot of guilds very early.
For sure, for sure.
I think it could be on a table even well into past being very early. I think that Yogg, Zero Light will be extremely difficult, along with, the Hodir damage check, the Freya hard mode, the Mimirom hard mode. And then after these guilds finally finish all of those, then you've got Algalon, which is going to be a giant wall in and of itself. I mean, most guilds in the PTR that are quite good at what they do raid-wise are struggling immensely against them already.
Yeah, I think so. Well, the major like pressure point in any Algalon pull is always going to be just damage taken. I think gear is one of those things that will help a lot of these guilds with Algalon. So Algalon won't be nearly as hard as it was for those of us that killed it or like attempted to kill it on PTR. Because like when we were doing it, we were literally just wearing Nax gear because we're trying to simulate like day 1 PTR, right? But like for guilds that are going in there with 40 extra item levels because they've been farming 245 gear, it's gonna be a lot easier.
I saw actually one of the fusion kills where maybe it was even their first kill that they did go in with the gear they had brought from the last like week of Ulduar. So they had like 2 sets of Ulduar gear, and it was significantly easier on their tank, like significantly. But yeah, like that will make a huge step up for killing Algalon. But the only 1 hour of attempts is gonna just wreck people.
Oh yeah,
because you just have to get used to it, and you need like white protection. It's gonna be crazy.
Maximizing your like uptime on Algalon, basically, like just getting as much in as you can in that hour while your guild is progressing, is going to be make it or break it for a lot of these guilds. Because it isn't a fight you can just roll over still, even with gear. It does require a good amount of coordination on everyone's part. It's not a healers have to work on like just healer cooldown rotations and that's it. Like you need people that are paying attention to ads, you need people that are paying attention to tank cooldowns. Like it's a coordinated effort on the entire raid that isn't really something we've seen at all from any other classic raid bosses, because we've had, I mean, TBC bosses were one mechanic at a time and it was one person at a time, and vanilla bosses had no mechanics. So
I think something
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
a lot of people have lost focus of, especially with how easy Nax has been, is defensive usage. I mean, even right now, if you look at the top guilds in the PTR, if you look at bone armor usage, icebound fortitude usage, anti-magic shell usage, like it's very, very low compared to what it should be, especially for the first few weeks of raids. I think a lot of people have, in general, forgotten how to use spells like that and abilities like that in raid content. And to bring those back and maximize the uses of those as a personal player, as a personal DK in these raids, is going to be massive.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to start playing your class and not just pressing one button. So that's
Yeah,
gonna...
we can't zigzag anymore, boys. We
Hey,
can't zigzag anymore.
pressing
Just get your
gargoyle
Christmas
is playing my
tree.
class, okay?
Yeah, just get your Christmas tree in AFK.
press Z to top DPS. I don't know.
Yeah, it's cool because finally with this new content, we get to have to think again as DKs. Whereas before this, Frost DKs were just spamming Obliterate, Unholy DKs are just snapshotting with Gargoyles, and now we've got more of a broad scope of things, which includes defensive cooldowns, when to use your potions, stuff like that. It's no longer a Zugfest, and I'm happy that we finally get content that requires us to use our brains a little bit.
Oh yeah, Algalon PTR is the most fun I've had in Classic.
Yeah, I
For
think
sure.
PTR hard modes in general have been a blast. I've really enjoyed every night that we've done it.
I mean, you're definitely
Also, the DPS gain you get from AMSing something, like people don't think about it as a like not just a defensive, but like being able to get just instantly like use all of your runic power if you have it, and like if you have open globals and no like runes on CD, and then just get like full runic power right away.
Oh yeah, like we have guides on what you can and cannot AMS in Blade Club, but people still just because it's not required and there wasn't really ample opportunity to do it previously, people have kind of just not picked up that as a skill. I think it's going to be a little more important, especially in Ulduar and going forward, because these fights have actual mechanics now, and there's stuff that they actually need to be paying attention to, except for like the bat cross. Like it's going to be a big shock to a lot of players.
Yeah, there's definitely like a bunch of shit you can aim as now in Ulduar, like coming from
Yeah.
max. Like basically every fight has something you can aim as. Just keep in mind where you trying to aim as Cosmic Smash, don't stand too close. I've done it, so like it's not fun. Like just send up to Jesus, and it's really not that fun. So
You want to be in the 10-yard range. You don't want to be in the 3-yard range.
yeah, I like overstepped like by half an inch and just got sent. Like,
It's enough to knock you up. Yep.
so be careful when you're min-maxing
Yes.
there.
Definitely, we gotta put like sounds back in the bars, grip definitely back in
Oh,
the
yeah.
bars. So yeah, we gotta use all the tools. Like you don't even have to burst on cooldown anymore. You might we might have it like situations where you want to hold burst for certain gaps within the boss, and also our army might also have some good usages like defensively
Oh, yeah.
in fights like Freya, right? So
I mean, so at the top end, we've seen people using army defensively already, with speedrunning guilds specifically. I mean, if you watched Beef Bar's World First like Nax run, they were using army when they were doing massive room pulls just so that they could safely make those pulls without tanks dying and no gear. So like now that it's a little more required just in like normal fights to think about your cooldowns, like we're gonna see more people kind of struggle with that now. But it's already something that people have been thinking about on the top end already. So it'll be fun to watch people try and catch up to that because it's something that better players have already been doing.
Yeah, and also
For
you
sure,
could use
before-
like army to like if you're gonna like die to a mechanic, you could potentially army as your mini shield wall, save yourself like last second if you're gonna like miss something.
Yeah, army is still like a 20%, I believe right now, 20% like damage mitigation when you use it.
Yeah, something like that should be.
Do you want to go Ignis Razorscale or do you want to go straight to XT?
Straight to XT, I would think.
Who cares about
yeah,
that?
yeah, everyone is going to skip those two, right? Week one, at least. I mean, my first impression is that we are not like the goal. Like even for those guilds that are speed running, most guilds are probably going to go for 10 men first and get some gear before wiping the whole night in hard modes. So it might be easier to go 10 men first, and so we clear everything and then go to 25 with the whole guild. But yeah, mostly in most cases people are skipping those two and going straight to XT, right?
Yeah, and XT hard mode still is, I think, mathematically impossible because the hard mode timer now starts on pull versus on heart. At least during the last PTR,
Didn't
I
they,
don't.
Didn't they
Go on,
make him?
Whitewolf.
Didn't they make him have less HP now? Isn't it like
Yeah,
did nerf them
48,
quite a bit.
48 million instead of 54, I think.
it's like he's like you need like 8.3k DPS or something, so it should be doable with a proper setup. But like it's whatever.
It's not achievable early at all.
Yeah, like
It's
not
going to
yet,
be gear
not yet.
dependent. Yeah, everyone will need a lot of gear before that becomes a realistic thing to do.
Like how much is it? Anyone done the math? Like how much DPS do you need?
You're close. I don't know if it's 8.3. It's somewhere very close to 8.3 per person.
Yeah.
Which is still asking a lot for how long that fight will be.
Yeah, assuming you have 20 DPS, like that's where 20.
Yeah,
DPS.
and on top of that, a lot of the top guilds have been rolling, X number of unholy DKs for this long. So now you got to change your comp up and still expect to put up the same number of DPS, which is asking a lot.
It's
Oh,
probably
yeah, and a lot of people are now having to, completely roll new characters as well.
Warlocks.
yeah. I mean, it's warlocks can easily like I'm sure you could push it with like a 10 warlock setup or something, but it's like that's
Oh, yeah.
not achievable for like most of the people. I mean,
Most guilds are not rolling,
Yeah.
10 warlocks deep.
Hashtag nerf lock, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that in general that will be a hard mode that a lot of guilds don't focus on early on. I'm sure the
think so,
hardcore
for sure.
guilds will, but ultimately I think that a lot of the more dadish guilds will go for some of the easier hard modes like Thorim, maybe Freya, bosses like that.
Yeah.
Thorm for
Just
sure.
taking one step back, hard
Mhm.
modes. So everyone, hard modes are like making the boss harder. And what's the deal with it? Like you need some specific hard modes in order to even fight Algalon, right? So
Yeah.
That's the catch actually. So you have I think XT is not it's not required, right?
It is
No,
not.
XT is not
Nope.
required. You need medium mode for Iron Council, which is like there's hard mode, easy mode, medium mode for Iron Council, depending on which mob you kill last.
And then you need the keepers.
Yeah, you need the 4 keepers on hard mode after you kill you, and that's very specific. You have to make sure you kill Iron Council first
And accept the quest.
and accept the quest, and then
Yeah.
you go kill the other keepers. Because if you don't, you just won't get to do Algalon that week. You have to make a key by killing each of the 4 keepers after you've already gotten the item off medium mode, quote unquote, or hard mode, Iron Council.
Yeah.
Awesome. So back to XT. How are you guys planning, or how did you guys do XT on normal mode?
You just kill it.
Yeah, you just kill
Yeah,
it.
it's super easy to get the. You actually have to hold back now from killing the heart, because it's very easy to kill the heart, especially if you have bloodlust, which
Oh yeah.
technically, if you're doing normal mode, you're still bloodlusting that phase because it takes 100% extra damage. For an unholy DK in particular, we actually got like in our current gear and average guilds like DPS, you kind of come back off of like ICD of like any procs right as you're about to enter into the first heart phase. It's like 78%. And like what you would have really focused on before the snapshot changes would be like maybe not DPSing so that you make for like a couple seconds, so you make sure you have a huge snapshot in your Gary. But now it's like less important, but you still do have like a lot going on right as that first heart comes out, and you can push it pretty much straight through to like the last heart, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah, I think the big thing to hold on for in that fight is just to save a lot of your offensive CDs until the first heart phase, because you do double the damage.
Mm-hmm.
and then you stop for 10 seconds because you did too much damage.
Yeah, and then, And then he just literally stands there doing RP, and you're like, well, what do I do now? We're about to kill it too.
But the XT, like, it's just a trash boss. Like, with the heart, it's just super easy. Like, you never, there's no mechanics if you just keep him on the heart, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Assembly of Iron.
Do you guys see any difference between like Frost and Unholy? I know like we do have to hold DPS, so it's kind of pointless to compare those two, right? But in XT, do you guys see any difference who will perform best? Because people apparently ask that all the time.
I think it depends upon how you define performance, especially in week 1 and what your guild's goals are.
Yeah, and I think both specs
Yeah.
have very big strengths on a lot of these fights, right? Unholy, even with the nerf, is still incredibly strong for any sort of burst, like targeted burst. And this fight is deceptively, like Iron Council is not a 3-minute fight. This fight is 2 minutes of putzing around while you slowly kill a boss, and then 60 seconds of kill the last boss, right? That's the only difficulty in hard mode. And even in normal mode, really, there's nothing going on to the last one.
I think that
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think in general the gap between the classes is getting smaller and smaller. I mean, we already were going to see a smaller gap due to the boss length in Ulduar in comparison to Nax, and now with the Gary nerf, it's going to be even closer. I think that both classes are kind of just utility classes for the time being. They both do good DPS, but not nearly as good of DPS on the Unholy side as they did in Nax, that's for certain.
Yeah, like this was always going to be a tier of Death Knights kind of being support classes, right? Unless you get to the point of getting fights down to 60 seconds like we saw in Nax, which like, there was some call of maybe that could happen because item levels have spiked up so much. But even then, just the fights are built to be longer in this tier, and that kind of automatically brings Unholy down to an even keel with Frost. It's going to come down to a lot of these based purely on like, the strength that you are looking for from that spec for that specific scenario. Like Iron Council is a fight that I would consider playing Unholy over Frost.
For
Yeah,
that
I agree with
Steelbreaker
that.
burst at the end.
Yeah, for hard mode specifically on Steelbreaker, because your Gargoyle can get the Death Rune, or not Death Rune, but Empowered Rune. It can get Death Runes too, so be careful on that. You just have to have like amazing. What I was doing was I was dropping a DigRat and I was gargoyling a DigRat in the rune.
That is so sick. That's actually hilarious. I didn't even think of that. That's amazing. That's a good plan. So then he like double dips. He's like chilling.
Oh wait. I think like Gargoyle gets buffed when you are on top of the boom,
Nope.
isn't it?
No, he gets the buff from the rune. He doesn't gain. He does because it's a % buff on you. It doesn't affect his damage if you have it. It only buffs him if he is standing physically in the rune.
Then that's the stonks as fuck.
It's just so annoying.
Good
Like,
call.
it's just so annoying. Like
Does-
something this.
What's it called? Because I heard and I didn't get to test it myself to see, but in on Hodir does your gargoyle double dip?
So your gargoyle doesn't inherit your crit, but so it's not really double dipping, quote unquote. The big like benefit why Unholy may be good for Hodir and why it was doing good on Hodir like PTR is that it procs Singed on the boss. Like it will it will put Singed up if it's affected, but it also gets the extra damage from Singed.
Oh
So it's like effectively doubles the damage of your gargoyle.
But if you're in the moonbeam, right, getting 50% haste and
It will get that, yes. It doesn't get it. I don't.
it doesn't get it itself though, that's the question. Like if you also summon it in the moonbeam.
It may be able to get it if it's in the moonbeam as well. That's not something I tried. But that would be another scenario of you need to DigRat drop to your gargoyle again. That's definitely something worth testing because if it does, then it's just flat better than Frost.
Yeah, that'd be huge. And you get the 50% like spell damage buff on it because of the singed.
Yeah.
Back to Iron Council. There is a lot of people that probably will be able to double gargoyle early on. It's not something you'll be able to do later, and if like your guild's been practicing, it's not something you can pull off either. Like you need to have gargoyle for Steelbreaker, and you want to have it for like with 100% uptime of you having Bloodlust and everything for Steelbreaker, because that's the only thing that matters. The rest of it's not really a DPS race. But early on, some kills are long enough to allow you to gargoyle right away, and then get a gargoyle right as you move into Steelbreaker. I've seen it go both ways with guilds that have like more or less experience on the fight. Did you guys see anything similar?
Yeah, I think some of our early polls, week 1, we might have seen something like that. In week 2, it was just there was no time to get a second one off at all. It was just so dead so quick.
Yeah, I think so too. So it'll just be like it'll be over quickly for most people, but like early on, if your guild is progressing through it, you might be able to do it, and that's extra damage for you.
I think a lot of like non-competitive guilds, maybe that's not the right term for non like race for world first guilds are going to see long enough times the first couple of times they try that boss that it's going to be safe to double gargoyle. There's quite a bit of a learning curve on that fight as well.
Yeah.
It's like one of those fights that would change every week, right? So where to burst and where to use stuff.
Yeah, right. It's like making like where like how well your guild clears this fight. So now you know when you can do something or not.
Somebody asked about the order in which you kill. As far as I am aware, the only thing that matters is the one you kill last for the achievement. And for its like loot. So like you get hard mode loot if you get Steelbreaker last every time. It's just way harder to kill Steelbreaker last if you go medium, small, big, because you're not getting the empowerment runes from the medium.
Anything else on this boss?
Welcome back to the old.
I think it's going to be a very difficult boss for most guilds. I think that people underestimate how hard mode Iron Council is. I think the transition into Phase 3 is extremely delicate, and if your tanks and healers are not 100% like together in communication, you're going to wipe it on the transition, or someone will end up dying, and you have to wipe it because the boss heals. It is not at all an easy fight.
I think
a lot of people think it will be because it's relatively early in the raid, but do not be fooled, and make sure that your tanks and healers are fully prepared.
I think this is one of those fights that seems easier to any guild that's like pushing it on PTR, because the kind of guild that is going into PTR to practice hard modes is the kind of guild that has the kind of like coordination as a group that you need to kill this boss, because it is largely a coordination fight, right? You need to coordinate how your raid is moving, you need to coordinate uptime, and you need to make sure your tank doesn't die in the final phase. It's not so much a numbers check, really. It's like it's almost entirely coordination, and so if your guild isn't strong in coordination, then it's much harder for guilds that are going in and practicing hard modes on PTR per se.
As for DKs, you can it's another fight where like early on you can use your defensives pretty well.
Oh yeah.
There's AoE ability, especially from Brundir does the AoE that you can just like AMS, and then like Rune of Death, you can AMS if it's on you to get some extra runic power and also just not die when you're running away from it.
There was definitely sometimes I just stood in a Rune of Death with AMS up so I could stand in the power rune.
Yeah. Like worth it.
I think one big thing is just making sure for unholy DKs that in phase 3, which you will need the rune of power for, you make sure that your gargoyle is inside of that rune of power. Because
yeah.
it's a pretty tight DPS check, and if you don't meet it, that could very well come down to your gargoyle's damage.
It's also, if you aren't going to be using like DigRat dropping,
Yeah.
big thing you can do is typically like on that fight, almost always actually, I found like the boss is going to almost always be in that power rune, like 9 times out of 10, because of like just melee stacking when you're waiting for it to drop. So you can pop your gargoyle a little early before you have buffs if the boss is in the power rune and being moved out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it takes them 3 seconds to like start attacking anyways. So then by that time, it should be like in the right position and buffed up.
And like you can abandon waiting for AP procs or like give up a more or better like AP proc snap if it's going to mean that your gargoyle lands in that power rune. That is your #1 priority.
People are asking, what the fuck is a DigRat? It's a rat you put on the floor you can cast stuff on.
Oh, the DigRat desolation weaving.
I just wish he brought
remember
like,
from Vale.
Yeah.
Vale straws back in the day. DigRats, you can go farm them in the Barrens, like in the little like I don't know. There's like dwarves and stuff in the Barrens in this little town. You just go kill the actual rats on the ground, and every now and then you'll get a unconscious DigRat.
Bale Modan. It's just
Bale
north of
Modan.
Razorfen Downs.
It's actually really clutch. I hadn't thought of using DigRats in a minute. Now,
you can mail them to yourselves. Yes,
really nice.
my mailbox is almost always full of DigRats.
Blizzard, don't watch
this
this.
might actually solve another problem. People are complaining that gargoyles are meleeing too much because the boss's hitboxes are incredibly huge in Ulduar. So you might be able to go away, or even though if you know the boss is moving, so you might be able to DigRat, summon gargoyle, and then run to meet meet your group and meet the boss. This is awesome, actually.
Do you have a DigRat focus macro for your summon gargoyle, like a second one?
I do not.
You just target it yourself?
I'm just a mouse over Andy.
Gamer.
It's probably smarter. I'm sure I could make an cast target macro for gargoyle, but I haven't yet, so I've just been mouse over dropping gargoyle on DigRats and praying.
Did you see at all issues with gargoyle on Kologarn? If we look at Kologarn.
Yes. Kologarn's hitbox is fucking bad. It's
so
terrible. Bad. It's everywhere. This is a fight I just didn't play Unholy on because I did like 2 of them, and gargoyle was just meleeing because his hitbox is the size of the room, and gargoyle's a fucking moron. So I just went Frost. I don't think it's worthwhile to play Unholy on that fight because of target swapping anyway. Frost is just stronger. It's on-demand burst for your right arm. It's strong cleave without having to worry about it, and you don't have to worry about gargoyle on that dumb hitbox.
I think that's fair. I didn't get to mine happened the same. It just my gargoyle meleeed 12 times. I was like,
yeah,
fuck this fight, dude.
Week 1, I had I think it was like 62 melees on Kologarn. It got 1 cast off.
Have you tried? I don't know if anyone has was able to try like maybe summoning it on like the left arm and then changing its target to Kologarn. I don't know if that would matter because of its hitbox being so huge.
So that's what I was trying to do, was because I'd pop it just to kill the left arm in that first bit. And it would just melee Kologarn because it's still in range of Kologarn from like the right arm side.
Yeah.
I'd hit change target with the macro, and it would just keep meleeing.
I mean, this boss is not going to be a challenge, right?
Yeah, this is a
There's
loose
no
not at
hard
all.
mode, so
Not at all.
basically kill arms and GG, loot is yours.
This boss has one mechanic, and it's kill your friends with I-beams.
Yeah, it's, and it doesn't even do it right away because the I-beam doesn't
so
like
slow.
one-shot you.
Yeah,
and
it's
it-
so
yeah.
slow, and it's so little damage.
You have to like have someone catch someone sleeping and not moving while you I-beam them directly, and then they die. Like that's it. Like you pretty much can't wipe on this fight. It's like it's so easy. I do like the idea of just going frost for it. I'll probably try that.
There's a question chat. No, you'd still want one Unholy Death Knight in here. They just have to suffer. Make someone else do it next week, so you can have a chance to have fun. But one person's still gonna have to suffer because the cleave AOE damage is very good without having to have other people try and like get it on the arms and on him.
Yeah.
Or we could just hope for Blizzard to fix this hitbox stuff and for it to work properly.
That's
You
not
know,
gonna happen.
Yeah,
It might. It might.
it's only been like
Alright.
15 years since the game came out, so like, yeah.
Agrin, I know you're listening. I dare you. Fix it.
Yeah. I'm writing it down, dude.
Remove the melees.
I mean, removing the melees would be reasonable considering what they did to Gary now. So just would make it consistent because right now it's just hit or miss, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it can do like between 200 and like 1000 DPS right now. So what's the point of you actually worrying about it? Like if it can randomly start doing nothing?
Yeah, it can be such a wasted CD if it just decides to melee a lot. And a lot of times, especially if you're in a pug or something, like your tank isn't gonna drag the boss after he sees melee summon to make him out of range.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Man, we really are the most annoying class, aren't we? We went from screaming about bloodlust to now screaming to have tanks drag the boss. It's like our girl stops fucking meleeing.
I wish they would just give us like a
So
reticle
true.
that you could put the Gary on, like, you know, like like a circle like D&D, so you could just cast him wherever you want, and that would be nice.
That'd be nice, yeah. It would also fix like the PvP issues too.
Do not get me started on the PvP issues. They're bad.
Oh yeah, Gargoyle's a fun button.
Does it do anything?
It does
Does the
damage.
gargoyle do anything? Yeah, sometimes it does.
Sometimes it doesn't.
All right, what about Cat Lady? Cat Lady is easy as fuck as far as I can remember.
Yeah, this is another one where it doesn't matter what you play. Both specs are basically even, right? Frost has got a bit easier access to pad cheesing.
Huge
But-
howling blast right as mob spawn. You're like, boom.
That's
Number
a
one
light one
damage.
for sure.
But like also I'm pretty sure those aren't going to be counted on Warcraft logs, so
Yeah.
Feels bad, man.
no parse cheesing for you.
The biggest things to watch for on Cat Lady are getting feared into little black areas in the ground, and on certain private servers, which I've never played, you're able to AMS before the fear went out to essentially not get hit by it, but that does not work on live, unfortunately.
Wait, it doesn't?
No, it does not.
It's a magical fear.
It's supposed to work, but it doesn't. At least it does not work for me. All 4 or 5 times I've tried it.
I will look into that.
I hope you do. I hope
Yeah,
someone
Blizzard,
does.
hello?
That's because that's odd. It is a magical dispellable fear. It should be AMSable.
Yeah. Cat Lady's a pretty simple boss, though. The only thing they're gonna die to is walking into those things on the ground by accident.
Void zones or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if a tank falls asleep and doesn't taunt a cat when it pounces you.
That's fair as well.
That sounded very specific. I'm assuming it's happened.
I am not adding anyone. They know who they are, and I know they're watching.
Yeah, I think Unholy, your consistent cleave, especially early on before you've nuked all of the ads, feels really solid. But yeah, both specs feel amazing on this fight. The burst from Frost on that cleave is crazy. I have a feeling we're gonna nuke this boss really fast in full gear.
Oh yeah, this is one of those ones where Unholy will shine later because it's got nothing going on, so you'll just burst it down. But for now, like especially on progression, quote unquote, day 1, week 1, month 1, it's fucking just play whatever you'd rather play between the two of them. They're both totally fine on that fight. There's not really a clear winner.
What fight are we talking about?
Auriaya.
Isn't that just a trash pack?
Yeah, literally. I mean,
One waste time, right?
it's gonna appear on the logs, and people are gonna be like, "How do I get a 99 on Auriaya?" Yeah. So
There is one thing I heard. Never tried it though. And it's like if you ever need a cheese strategy for the cat lady, you could bring in like as soon as these cats spawn, I think they jump towards someone in the raid, right? So you could either have it could be either a bat or a player, and they do a ton of damage, and they need to be taunted as up. But if you do have a blood decay there with a lot of worms or a blood DPS, they might potentially jump into the worms and not players. So I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical, but it could potentially be a thing if people are having problems with that.
Don't give any credence to the worm players, please.
We have to snapshot our worms now.
No.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah,
bad enough
yeah.
with it's bad enough with rugs adding me about worms every fucking like week or so. I don't need all of you also doing it.
Hodir, probably one of the first like actual hard modes, at least early on, to make sure you hit
yeah.
that DPS check.
Yeah, it's a fight that requires a very strict DPS requirement from your raid, and it's also super heavily RNG reliant. This is gonna be one of those ones I don't see a lot of dad guilds getting at all, like the first 2 weeks. This is one of those ones that's gonna require some gearing.
This fight scares
Hodir
me.
is a very fun RNG fest. At least I think it's fun.
Oh yeah, it's fun if RNG is in your favor.
If you have
Right.
it perfect, yeah.
If I have a storm cloud, if I'm in a fire, like I'm blasting. It's fun. Moonbeams on me, I'm having a great time. If storm cloud passes by me, or I don't know, the random discipline priest that got it is AFK in Narnia, then it's the worst fight on earth.
Yeah. I think the two main ways to talk about Hodir are A, if you're going for the hard mode or not, which changes things drastically, or B, if you're just going for a normal mode, which should be a very, very simple fight.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
this fight's a cakewalk if you're not doing hard mode.
The biggest issue that I think most guilds have as far as the hard mode and making sure that you get it done in time is 1, dragging the boss to fires as soon as they spawn. 2, making sure that your raid as a whole can get the moonbeams and that they can stand them for as long as possible. And then the biggest one that I think a lot of people struggle with is making sure that you break the NPCs out of the flash freeze as soon as it goes out.
As soon as possible, yeah.
I like to think my guild's quite good, but even we had mobs that were staying in the ice for like upwards of 10 seconds after the
Jeez.
fact, which is not acceptable. For Frosty Ks that are listening, if there are any, one thing that I would recommend doing for this fight is have a Howling Blast mouse over macro. Try to proc KM before the flash freeze goes out, and then mouse over and try to Howling Blast the mobs that are farthest from you in the block. That'll help you raid out quite a bit.
This is also one of those times where having the point into, oh god, what is the name of the
Death Chill.
Death Chill, there we go, is great for this fight for progression.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Also,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was talking about mouse over Howling Blast. You can also use it on Kologarn, on the ads that spawn on the side, so you don't have to move out when you want Howling Blast. And, like,
Yeah,
so
that's
Howling
true.
Blast-
That's a
Howling
good fight
Blast
for it.
Howling Blast them and easy DPS.
You guys are killing ads?
So I don't die to them, yes.
It looks good on details, man.
Yeah, it looks better.
I don't play with details on.
What?
Savage. What? Unholy DK doesn't play with details on.
I have Warcraft logs open on my other screen. I can see my parses there.
Wait, you're a Draenei.
Yeah.
You're a Draenei, right?
Oh no, now I'm an Orc Warlock.
Oh.
Yeah, it happens. RIP. Don't worry, we'll get him nerfed. For this fight, you were mentioning the DigRat, which could be really useful, right, for the Starlight, which gives you the haste. And then if you summon Gary in there, and if he could double dip with the haste of the Moonbeam, that would be crazy.
That'd be huge, yeah.
I'd be surprised if he double dips. I hope he does for every guild's sake. But I know that prior to the nerfs on the PTR, we were having our DKs pop Gary inside the first Moonbeam that went out, and their
Mhm.
Garys were hitting on average anywhere from like 320 to 370,000 damage. So that's with the
Okay.
snapshots. I don't know if you standing in it counts as like retroactively snapshotting it throughout the fight, if that makes sense.
It would. It'd be dynamically updated, right?
I would
So
think so, yeah.
as long it should specifically for this, like as long as you were in the Moonbeam the entire time, it should function exactly as it did pre-nerf for
It did.
specifically that.
It did for me. when I tested, like it slowed down when I had to move out of a moonbeam for flash freeze, and then kind of adjusted.
Yeah, because that's the buff is just a flat haste buff on you that is it affects your paper doll, so it'll affect Gary.
How much did you say it was, Enthozz?
The gargoyle damage?
Yeah, yeah.
We saw like a 400,000 damage like log from one of you guys.
Oh
And-
wow. I only saw, I think 370,000 was the most that I saw in my raid.
And was that before the nerf?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So like, yeah, this is like if it does about that much on average, it's not going to be enough for it to make Unholy better than Frost. It's only like 3k DPS. That's basically
Yeah.
basically nothing. Unholy would still like lose out on because like your pet
Well, the-
doesn't benefit, army doesn't do shit. Your spells just scale worse than Frost does. So
Yeah, so it's also that is a big thing to remember on Hodir as well with that crit buff, that Frost has like crit damage amplification through its talents.
Yep.
So it just gets more of its damage is affected by the buffs, and then also it gets more from the buffs. Period.
I really doubt like Unholy would do better in that fight unless Gary does like some ridiculous 10k DPS or something. But like that's. not
I could
true.
see an argument for Gary doing better just because if you're popping Gary in the first beam, which you should be doing, all of your haste procs are on CD at that point, including DMF greatness. So at this point, you're going to get your second round of procs for the most part, as your Gary is already out. And if you can stand in beams for long enough, and you have really high uptime in them, you can see a really strong gargoyle coming out of it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
how,
I think that
Probably
was-
not 400k, but still quite strong.
yeah, that's just not enough. Like I'm saying, because like Frost DK can do like up to like 15, 16 DPK DPS, which like most likely won't be. I mean, even more. You can do like 20k with good RNG. So
Yeah, you can. I think either Frost or Unholy are both very good on this fight. I mean, obviously, Frost DK is one of Prio Frost Strike, especially once you have the sigil.
Yeah.
But if you have Stormcloud buff and you're just rocking out, you can pump insane numbers as either spec.
Yeah, I think it's good to note that for most guilds that are going to be like progressing on this, not guilds that have already downed it on PTR, Frost is going to be the safer play.
I agree with that. Yeah.
it's also like
The,
way easier, right?
Oh yeah, it requires way less effort to do better to do as much if not better than Unholy. It requires way less effort for
Yep.
Frost.
On Hodir, yeah.
Yeah, on Hodir,
I think that's a kind of a trend though for a lot of the fights. If you haven't done them yet,
yeah.
or if like your players aren't as good, like it's easier to do well on Frost. Like there's a lot more of min maxing, but it's easier to be consistent. A lot of the times on a lot of the fights in here when you don't know the mechanics and stuff, and you're not like playing around them well. It feels like it at least.
I mean,
You
that's
might
it's
feel
definitely true.
differently and thus.
It's definitely true. Like Frost just has instant damage. Like there is basically no burst. You just have like 1 minute CD. So like you come in and you just hit the boss and you pumping. Like right, you got the buff, you pumping. You don't have to worry about summoning Gary, like casting army and shit like that. So it's definitely easier to do well with instantly. I mean. Also, when
Anything
you
else?
There is one crazy tech in this boss as well.
Ooh.
Actually, I never tested. It was something I saw in Jordi's live yesterday. Actually, one of his vods. Actually, I noticed that when he stepped on the moonlight, like he was walking towards something, and he stepped in the moonlight, and he walked out of it with the haste buff, and the haste buff stayed on him until he casted something. It might be me being like crazy, but if it stays on you until you cast something, what if you summon Gargoyle and do nothing the whole time? But actually, yeah.
So I don't think it stays until you cast something. It's probably
it's-
just lingering because of
Yeah,
how
a couple of
bad.
seconds, right?
Yeah, because like the way auras are done in Classic is so bad. It's so bad. Auras are so bad in this game. They are pulsing hidden duration buffs. They are not actual static buffs, and it's done so poorly, which is why you see stuff like if you are entering like a totem range, it can take up to 3 seconds for a totem to apply to you. Or if you're trying to enter into like the dark or black holes on Algalon, sometimes it just takes 3 seconds to zone down. And that's because every single aura applies on this weird, not quite a server tick, but is a server tick. And like you have to dynamically update your position to get them to update sometimes. It's just very
Yeah,
poorly
you have
done.
to. You sometimes have to strafe or jump or something, or else it won't
s-
register that you haven't moved out.
Yeah, or for like Algalon, running into the hole and then just stopping your movement, period. We'll get it to update faster. If you continue moving, it updates your movement or your like position slower for the aura.
That makes a lot more sense. And it's actually best, because if that was true, imagine the crazy stuff we would be
God,
seeing.
yeah.
The moonbeams, though, the moonbeams and the fires are like larger than their visual representation. So you can actually stand like around a moonbeam and be technically within it and getting the buff without you having to stand directly in it. And that kind of can help for like if you have to spread out a little bit to not drop like icicles on you. That can be useful, but it's not massive, but it can work.
Somebody just Pumpatron just post a 477,000 damage gargoyle from Hodir.
Yeah, that's quite solid.
Oh my god. Pretty good, pretty good. Not too shabby. That's pre-nerf, right?
Yeah, it's pretty nerf. I think there's definitely, in the long run on that fight, Unholy will probably we'll find something to break it, right? We always do. But for now, Frost is just easier and better during progression.
Awesome. Next boss then.
Yeah. Thorim.
Do we care about Thorim?
Yeah, they buffed this fight.
Did they?
Yeah, they buffed its damage. It's still not a fight. This fight has like 6 mechanics. They all do something. That something is they telegraph damage, and you move from the damage, and you win the fight.
Or AMS.
Or just AMS and stand in it,
Literally.
Can you MS the lightning shit?
Yeah.
Oh,
You can
nice.
just take nothing. It does so little damage,
That
even
was-
with the buff.
That wasn't the thing
like-
on private servers. I'm jealous.
This
Yeah,
fight,
it's very convenient. It's very easy. Everyone should. I mean, this is the hard mode that every guild that's like looking into starting hard mode should just start with. It just adds some extra raid damage.
yeah, it's the tunnel is quote unquote time gated, like it's a race against the clock. But if you can't make it, then you probably need to farm some more gear for a while, because it's there's nothing going on in there. You walk forward, you move left and right, and everything falls over because it's got like 100,000 HP per mob.
Yeah. You end up
Those-
like getting into hard mode with like 45 seconds left without
Yeah.
trying. That's
Almost-
like a pug.
Almost everything in the tunnel dies with a single round of seeds, because you're sending your casters in mostly, and like you see them and they're all dead, and you just keep walking forward. It's you press W and win on that fight. The entire and both specs are totally fine here. I personally, this is another fight I just vastly preferred playing Frost, but Unholy is perfectly fine here.
Yeah, that was what I was going to mention. I did quite well as Unholy there.
Yeah, it's
It's
a lot of
surprised me,
nothing.
because mobs die so fast. I can even spread diseases. They're already dead.
yeah, but you just D&D, you're getting passive damage.
Yeah, you're not going to really spread many diseases for most people down below, right? Like if you're waiting, Unholy can do really well because Hodir's basically like a mini patchwork. Like you don't really have to move and you just blast them, which will just get shorter, obviously, as we get more gear. And you can AMS like if there's a blizzard on you or the lightning charge is on you. So it should be easy. A tip I have for just make sure you're not chaining the chain lightning, right? Like if you have a lot of melee, just don't chain the chain lightning. I've seen it happen so many times, and you can either stack in a triangle around the boss, or like you might do with Kel'Thuzad, where you're like a square around the boss. But if you get too close to the other group and you chain the lightning, it just kills that whole other group.
And that's actually, make sure you're shouting at your casters not to move too far forward as well, because week 1 I was doing a couple of pugs with Goofy from that group, Ruggs' group and stuff.
Yeah.
And we had a paladin move forward to melee the boss, a holy paladin move forward to melee the boss, chain lightninged out into the warlock that he was supposed to be stacking with, to the warlock group to their right, all the way around the circle with the chain lightning, killing everyone instantly.
That actually be so funny to watch. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, guys. But it's an easy fight. Like you're straight up just DPSing him when he comes down. Freya, are there any tips and tricks for dealing with this fight that you guys might think of?
I personally vastly prefer playing Unholy on this fight to Frost.
Yo, me too, actually.
If you want to be loved by your guild, offer to tank the Snap Lasher
Oh yeah.
and kite that around the room by taunting it on CD, using Chains of Ice when you can, and Icy Touch when it's already slowed or stunned.
You do that as you're doing pretty much full AoE damage on the others with just D&D and diseases rolling. Like this fight is kind of tailor-made for Unholy, I'd say. Not only because like everything is so like there's so much long-lasting cleave. That's very easy to just get good damage out, but also you just fucking survive everything. Like the hard mode for this fight is a lot of damage taken to your raid. It's kind of like the only difficult part is that there's just a lot of damage being done to you, whether that be through bomb plants or the clouds. What are they called? I don't remember the name of the debuff that gets put on people that they have to run into the raid with. Something power. But like Unholy just doesn't take damage. Bone Shield is so strong for this fight.
Unstable energy. Is that
Unstable
it?
energy. There we go.
Yeah.
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 And,
Unholy, Unholy is just consistent. Like it's just pure consistent cleave.
You just throw
And
your
if-
TNT in the pack and Pestilence, and that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you get separated from like the tree because you have to move out with energy, or say like the boss is moving across the room to get to another mushroom, your gargoyle and your ghoul don't get silenced, so they'll just keep doing damage, and your diseases will keep doing damage.
Can you Gary underneath a mushroom for a 25% damage buff?
I don't know.
Probably not.
It depends, because like it should theoretically apply to gargoyle like any other like aura that they pick up, because like gargoyle can technically get non-partied auras, so like theoretically maybe that's something we'd have to like test with DigRats again.
You mean
Yeah.
if Gary stands below it, yeah, but like it doesn't snapshot it from you. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, it's a percent.
Oh no, that's yeah. But it'd be like it'd be like literally there's multiple uses of this DigRat, like a positioning your Gary smartly that could greatly increase your DPS if this works.
but
Oh, yeah.
also this is kind of irrelevant because like what would you be hitting, like the
Yeah, that's true. It's like Stonebark, Elder Stonebark or whatever.
Yeah, but
no,
like
sorry,
it's-
the Ancient Conservator.
Yeah.
It's like whatever.
This fight's kind of a pushover as well, honestly. If you're, as long as you can get bomb roots, whatever they're called, down, you're fine.
Yeah, the detonating lashers. I think like pugs are gonna die to detonating lashers like by blowing them up. But like when they get low, either knock them away, stun them, slow them. Just don't nuke them all. Stop DPSing.
I'm gonna
most-
save every like mid to casual hardcore guilds like life here. Have one of your warlocks go destro, have one of your mages go fire, and the bombs are literally no longer an issue ever again. You drop Shadow Fury when they hit like 15%, you knock them back and they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also for
I think the
Unholy-
And
biggest
those are like this is the gap where you want to arm it right. So you have them taunt and hold them in place.
Yeah. What a lot of guilds do for this fight is when the detonating lashers are coming out or they're about to die soon, we have a warlock that's a spec where they can cast Shadow Fury. So you Shadow Fury, and then ideally you have a boom can knock them away with Typhoon.
Yeah, fire mages
Yeah.
worked great too.
And one cool thing that you can do as both Frost and Unholy is, as Frost, I'm holding a KM'd Killing Machine Howling Blast until they're quite low, so that I'm running away and then blowing them all up with huge bursts at once. Helps a lot, saves people, and then as those things start running towards you, which they will do because you will not kill them all in the Typhoon, try to cast Chains of Ice on as many of them as you can, because if one gets close to you or someone else, you could very well get owned.
Yeah. It's also like if you're running a heavy warlock stack, they will die in the midair, like in midair.
Yeah,
Oh, that's always
yeah.
fun to watch.
Yeah. Chains of Ice actually sees a lot of use in this raid.
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Assault bots, snap lashers, these little detonating lashers. It's just a useful tool to have. If you guys don't have a hotkeyed yet, make sure that you do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
as a DK, you're basically like a guardian, but you're protecting your shitty casters like from these small, making sure
Yep.
they don't die. That's basically
You're
your job.
there to protect me in my shitty little warlock garb.
Basically, yeah.
Freya's a weird fight though. It's a fight about control, and like the only DPS that you really get to do is towards the end and on the big tree guys, I guess. But it feels very different than any fight that we've had so far in Classic. I can't think of one that feels even remotely close to it.
Yeah, it's very much not a race against time, right? You are literally waiting it out. Which there are more fights like this in the game going forward now, but it is very much like antithesis to what you would normally expect from a WoW boss.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just a marathon. You just stay alive. It's just not a sprint. So you
Yep,
just stay
that's
alive
it.
and survive. Yep. And it's
Literally, like, and the hard mode is the same. It's like just live and get through the waves, and then you won.
yeah. The only possible way you die is unholy there, for example, is basically if you got rooted and like you get beamed like 3 times on top of that and you just get killed.
Yeah.
And you don't get healed through, and that's it. Like you shouldn't be able to die like any other way. Because you have like so many defenses, so like it's really a nice place for you. Plus, talking about Unholy on that fight, you're always gonna want to run your Glyph of Icy Touch, boys, and maybe even run the PvP sigil from P1, so because it's just AP for AoE. Though that
Yeah,
shouldn't be
this
that
is
big.
this is a good cleave fight for it.
But like the Icy Touch sigil is going to be quite huge there. Sorry, Glyph.
Actually, yeah, the glyph, yeah.
Glyph.
And actually, moving right on to our next fight of Mimirom. That's another fight for Unholy, in which, just segueing from that, the Icy Touch glyph is great for this fight.
Yep.
And so is the PvP sigil. Because it is a like the all of the difficulty in Mimirom is in phase 3, whether you're doing hard mode or easy mode. I assume I've not done easy mode Mimirom.
I actually found most groups that I played with struggled more with phase 2 just from raid wide damage. But
yeah,
yes,
Phase 2 is rough.
Phase 2 spread can be rough. That's more like making sure healers are coordinated with how you're spreading out, right? You make sure that they are aware of who's around them. That's a big thing I've found with classic World of Warcraft players when they are healing, is that they don't have very much spatial awareness. So they're not actually healing the people that are in their vicinity, right? That's I think probably the biggest issue I've found with classic healers is and that's also like the biggest thing they need to focus on for that fight. You split people up, you make sure that your raid is ready to use raid cooldowns for their half of the room. Make sure healers are awake for phase 2.
Yeah, and in phase 3, I was able to death and decay on the ground, and it was still hitting even the aerial unit. Which I don't know if that'll change, but yeah. So your D&D is hitting all 3 of them. You have cleave on all 3 of them. You can be DPSing the middle one and just like spreading your diseases like crazy. You do a ton of damage on this fight. It's just passive cleave, and like you're saying, yeah, that makes the Icy Touch sigil really strong, or the glyph really strong. The PvP sigil really strong for this fight. How does Frost feel on here, Enthozz?
Frost feels pretty great. I help tank ads during the phase where all the ads are running around, like the assault bots and whatnot. But in general, I think both specs do just fine in this fight. I think it's a fight where your defensives really matter more than any other fight right now, outside of maybe like Yogg-Saron. But using your AMS to help clear mines, using IBF when a lot of damage is going out, especially in phase 2 in the final phase. And then if you are doing firefighter, trying to make sure that you don't spread fire into the melee, which is arguably the biggest thing to do as melee, which is a bad thing to do. It's it feels weird. It's a fight that doesn't really feel like much of a DPS race outside of the final phase, and more about mitigating damage and making sure that the bad things like mines and fire don't hit your raid members.
Yeah. Phase 3 feels less of a DPS race and more of a race against your healer's mana.
Yeah.
If you're playing phase 3 correctly, then like it's gonna die. You just need to make sure that you are minimizing the amount of damage you take, because that is like the biggest like point of weakness for any raid going into that like final phase in firefighter. It's just everyone's going to be taking a lot of damage, and your healers are going to be very close to ooming, except for the paladins.
Are you talking about phase 4 or?
Yeah, phase 4.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, guys, get confused.
I don't count phase
Yeah.
3 as a phase.
Yeah,
Aerial
like
unit, wee woo.
We sleep.
But yeah, on that fight as a whole, you can start with your Death Coil sigil and then just
swap final phase. Yeah.
But we should probably sim that because it's like 3 targets. It's most likely super close.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The glyph is definitely worth it on that fight.
Yeah, glyph, yeah.
but
It's a
Sigil's
tough
really
fight.
close.
Especially at first. We tried Firefighter for quite a few attempts before we got it down. It's dealing with the mechanics at first is quite frustrating. Once you get him down, it feels like a pretty simple fight, all things considered, but a lot of it is just controlling the fire. That's tough, especially at first.
I love this fight. Like,
It's fun for sure.
I've done it as a Death Knight and as a Warlock now, and just it definitely feels much better as a caster, even as someone who was expected to like work with fire and move fire for the raid. It's a very, very fun fight to do no matter what role you're playing.
Yeah. And like Freya, guys, if you want to be loved by your guild, Phase 3, go Frost Presence. As the assault bots come out, taunt them, and taunt can be used from quite a long distance. I think it's 30 yards on Dark Command. And then just kite them with either Icy Touch, Chains of Ice, just swap between the two. And they'll start coming out. You might have 2 or 3 of them out at once. So if that happens, maybe ask the other DK to help you out. But it's kind of our duty as Death Knights here to kite those assault bots because no one else can do it as well. Especially since they got buffed and they now hit for about 50k.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of like your only job. That
Yeah.
fall.
So you're depending on how many Death Knights you run, you also want them gripping bomb bots out, and ideally getting some damage out on the firefighter bots.
Yeah, it just seems like the difference on 3 targets with the glyph, and it's like the glyph is definitely going to be worth it. Like quite a bit. It's going to be quite decent. And
I imagine the sigil is what, like 15 DPS maybe?
it's like 40 on 3 targets, but you lose some like single target DPS, so it's like whatever. It's
Yeah.
up to you basically. So it's not that much. Because like you might want to focus down like one or the other at some point. So it's like whatever.
Oh yeah. Often you're going to be shouted at to kill like the middle, the body.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be waiting for casters to actually do damage to the head because they're too busy multi-dotting and padding.
You
Can
also,
we reglyph main like mid fight?
no.
Nope.
Thank God, actually.
Can you imagine?
But yeah, like you can swap your sigils when you're moving out, for example, for the shock blast if you needed to. So if you need to, so that's kind of nice. And yeah, you can swap like you run in, you swap to the sigil like while you're running. You drop your D&D, it snapshots the attack power if you plague strike something. Yeah, you can't. Never mind.
You'll want a sigil swap to your cleave sigil
Yeah.
when you're waiting for phase 4 to like spawn.
Yeah.
But I'm
But
sure you can. do some stuff.
like once you get the fight down, this actually becomes like one of the easier hard modes. It's just all coordination and getting used to dropping the fire in like a good place.
I think the majority of the difficulty for this fight is your fire kiters. Once they get used to it, it becomes way easier. 'Cause, like, a good fire kiter will keep the entire room like breezy for the raid to be able to move as they need to. Whereas someone who doesn't know what they're doing will just you'll get fucking kebabbed.
And good fire kiters will like combine fire like
Yeah,
snakes.
combining fire like stacks is very, very big. So you don't get multiple snakes.
Fire kiter and firefighter, nice.
Last note is don't get hit by frost bomb like me.
No, you
Yeah,
did
actually,
it.
yeah, I got hit by one of them.
Are you-
There's what
You're also
in
a frostbomb
Jordy's
enjoyer?
guide, there's someone getting hit by it.
Oh no.
I
I
need to.
didn't think you could get any balder on those.
It's possible for me to get Balder, trust me.
Enthozz, I'm also a frostbomb enjoyer.
Hey, my man.
Welcome to the club.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
You should find the clip of my whole guild wiping to death because no one noticed it. Like it was so fucking funny.
Dude, sometimes it's hard to see. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean it's out of your screen sometimes. So
Exactly.
when you're focusing on your pestilence and shit, like your diseases and shit, and then suddenly hits you.
In summary, I think Mimiron's a fight where every guild's going to have their own individual problems, and I think that finding real-time answers to any small, minute questions that guild may have, as far as how to get it down, is going to become important. Like, if you're having trouble with the assault bots in Phase 3, or you're having trouble with the fire and the fire spreaders, like, just asking what to do in certain phases to help tweak the fight to better your guild's performance on it is going to be big. But you don't really know what your problems are going to be as a guild until you get there and try it out.
Also, being an engineer definitely helps on this shit. Like, oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you want speed
Oh,
boots
the
for
belt.
sure.
Also, the belt can be useful.
Yeah, the stun.
Stun belt, yeah. And it
Yeah.
actually has use here and before XT like the ads before XT. Maybe also on the ads on XT, I guess. I haven't looked, but the stun belt, it can be really useful. But yeah, having boots is just very, very crucial for a lot of like here, and then also in like on Iron Council, if you're in like a bad place and the Rune of Death gets dropped right on you, and maybe like AMS is down, like being able to boots out of that just like saves your life.
Sure. What about the next boss, everyone?
General Vezi. I only did
Vezi.
this a few times as my Death Knight, so I'll let you guys talk more about it because I had to do this on like Hunter and Warlock a few times.
Yeah, I did all of my hard mode testing for Vex on my Warlock.
All right, then Enthozz and Whitewolf, how to min max this fight as DK?
Make sure that you hit your interrupts and
Gets-
grip in Serenite for your healers when you need.
gets him.
We have one of our paladins kind of stand close to the melee group, and whenever he needs to stand in the ooze or the Serenite that drops, I'll just run out, grip it in real fast, kill it, and then he just stands there when he needs to. Also, as melee guys, I shouldn't need to say this, but if someone grips Serenite into the melee stack on accident and the ooze spawns on the floor, step out of it. Don't stand inside of it.
Yes, if you don't
It
know
will
as
kill you.
melee, it stacks, like the debuff on you hits you harder and harder over time. So just don't stand in that.
But you can dip a finger in, a toe in, and get some AMS off of it.
Yeah.
So you know.
Hey, DPS increase, okay.
It's a pretty straightforward fight for melee. I think healers and range DPS for the most part are what the fight falls upon. But just make sure that if you guys have an interrupt rotation, that if you can't make it or you use it on accident, just call it out early. This is the first fight that we've seen where like everyone is interrupting constantly, or at least 3 or 4 melee DPS
yeah.
are.
Get the nameplate interrupt like counter Weakora. I think you can literally just search those like words I said and you'll find it. It is like what most people use for Reliquary in Black Temple. It's fucking amazing. It's like it is one of the best Weakoras.
Also in Tem's new pack for Ulduar, he has like, because you need 3 people technically, like a 1, 2, 3. He has like on the side of your screen, you'll see like interrupt 1, interrupt 2, and interrupt 3, and you'll see them on CD.
Oh, no.
So it's really, really clean. He actually added that in the most recent push, and I was like, damn, this is real. This is really nice.
Yeah, I think most boss add-ons have the interrupt 1, 2, and 3 now. What we do is we just have 1 DK assigned for each of them, and then you have a 4th guy with an interrupt assigned just in case someone's going to miss theirs or it gets missed. Like you can sometimes try to interrupt and it won't go off, which is very annoying.
How do you feel in the sense of like Unholy versus Frost for this fight?
It's a very long fight. Let me look at my logs real fast. Hang on. I think they were pretty close when Gary was still good, but I think that Frost will pull ahead due to the severe length of the fight.
Also, like you lose like you lose 20% haste. Also, it really doesn't matter. Like your casters are doing like 90% of the damage. Like
right.
Just AFK.
We're kind of just there to interrupt.
Yeah, you make sure you have an Unholy to give debuffs and a Frost to give debuffs, and this is not really a melee focused fight.
I mean, you're just standing there like waiting for it to be over. Maybe even just go Frost so you don't have Wandering Plague, so your Wandering Plague doesn't accidentally murder the Vapors. Also, don't use Howling Blast when they're close, and yeah, you just AFK after that. And get some snacks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
But, like, you really won't do well on that fight anyways. So, like, the difference is going to be like 500 DPS either way, so like, who cares? Honestly.
Yeah, so looking at our logs, the Frost, we had 2 Frost DKs and 3 Unholy DKs on 2 of our nights, and it looks like the Frost won out by about 600 DPS, but again, for melee, it's not really about DPS.
So low,
yeah.
How much was it? Like
Look,
7k? 7k? Something?
Yeah, a little bit under 7k, give or take.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, you're just it really is a fight where your casters are just doing all the damage and you're just like making sure that people don't die by interrupting.
Yeah, as melee, we don't get the short end of the stick. I think it's a really easy fight for the melee, and you're gonna wipe a lot due to things that you might not understand, aka casters yelling at one another when something bad happens.
Easy clap.
Oh my god, I remember casters killing the boss before, like, just killing it before this vapor spawns. I hated it so much. Oh my god. Just racing on the damage. Like, who cares about your damage? Like, honestly. And then the warrior that missed his Ulduar on the last reset.
No.
No, dude. Yeah, this boss. I mean, casters want Flare of the Heavens, so
Yeah, this is
Don't
this
kill
is the
it.
boss for casters.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw any guilds killing us on hard mode in the PTR because it doesn't count towards DD.
Yeah,
We-
it's not one that a lot of people are gonna focus on, right? Like
mean,
for these
Loot wise,
features-
it's tremendous, but as
Good
far as DD
Yeah.
goes, no one's really focused on it right now. So I think that as far as strats go, when you are getting the giant spawn from the 6 Serenite Vapors, I think that you'll see strats develop in real time as Ulduar comes out and as people start doing the hard mode of it. You'll see very few guilds doing hard mode Vezax week 1.
yeah, it's the races are
any.
going to include it.
Right.
I mean, it's not hard. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a simple fight, honestly. Like, if your casters are not, if they have some brains, I don't know.
I'd
Like,
say this is probably like the second easiest hard mode.
it's like
Maybe
It's
you're-
just a
maybe
long
third
one.
easiest. I'd say maybe one light is probably easier. I put
Yeah.
Thorim one light than this.
yeah, it's like, as long as they know what they're doing, as long as you have like someone calling like what they like, someone telling them what to do, it should be fine. Like this.
Yeah. You need one caster that has a brain.
And just don't
luck.
waste mana if you're the caster. Don't waste mana before.
Yeah.
So make sure you have enough mana to burn the Serenite Animus. That's it.
Also, by the way, how did you guys tank it?
My guild just tanked it kind of like straight up where it was. I don't.
No, I
don't
mean like
know.
what tank did you use rather?
Oh, we used Feral and a Prot Warrior or Prot Paladin.
Is the damage high? Can't you just solo blood decay it?
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about having a blood DK for the first time in this fight because the threat is that good, and since warlocks pump out damage, you might have threat issues for the first time.
I mean, you're
Mhm.
definitely gonna have threat issues. Not you will just. It's rather like, I mean, like it depends on how restrictive they are with their DPS. Because like you can do fine. You can do like 16k DPS, easily kill the boss if you're not greedy, right? Because like there is a timer. You don't want to kill him too fast because you definitely can kill him too fast if you're going too fast. So like the threat shouldn't be an issue, but like having a blood DK definitely makes it easier with like the DPS you can do. So also like
Yeah,
you can easily solo tank it. I think if the damage isn't too high, if then they make it too high, so should be doable.
it's a good point. I think this is the first fight where blood DK really shines just due to their sheer threat output.
Pull out your Grizzly Hills sigil and pump.
Yeah.
And get some points into Rhyme as well. That helps, boys. And yeah.
Yeah.
Rhyme is 5% Ice Touch crit. I think it's the highest per point threat point I think you can get, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Unless you're talking like snap threat, and then it'd be death chill.
Yeah. But like I mean, like on like
Just
on average.
overall, yeah.
Like you really don't care about the dodge shit on this fight. You can just go get like you just get like your killing machine. You get your what's the talent above Rhyme? I forgot the name. Glacier Rot, I think it's called. You get,
Yeah, Glacier Rat.
You get that. You get the point into Rhyme, and yeah, and you don't really want the interrupt because it's going to be useless because you most likely won't be hit capped on as blood decay. And yeah, you got massive threat there with the Ice Touch sigil. So yeah.
Yeah. No one's taking you down on.
I mean,
threat
they
there.
are going to take you down if they don't stop pumping, but you're definitely going to do better than anyone else. And yeah, these 3 points, these 3 talents should be the biggest.
Well, remember we're playing in ICC like 14-time modifier Icy Touch, so I think it'll probably be like even without Superman maxing it, you'll probably still be fine.
Yeah, 14 times threat modifier, icy taunt.
I mean, a nice touch is like what? It's like 40k threat if it's a good one.
Yeah.
So like 40k threat, it's not that much or anything. Like warlocks, they cast like 2 spells and they can just pull over. Like you're not spamming Ice Touch, right? You don't have that many Ice Touches, so they definitely have to go slow still, because they're going to be doing like 25k DPS. Like you're not keeping up if they're actually trying to do DPS, like trying to overtake you. They will. So it's going to be like, it's going to depend on like how well they can hold off on the DPS.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, relying on casters, specifically warlocks, to use Soul Shatter.
Yes, DK is literally just interrupt bot.
And also, most likely you won't be like Affliction on that fight because it like just pulls like too much threat to like compared to the DPS, and like what's it called? Destro does really well because it's like instant damage, right? because you're moving quite a bit. So Destra most likely will do better on that fight than Athlete and Demo, so you can run Destra there as well. And shit like Arcane Mage does pretty well there, because it does like very low threat. Also, I think I've seen Frost Mages do there very well as well, because the threat is basically non-existent on Frost, and the damage is like well more than enough for that fight, and they really can pump without having to worry about their threat, so that's nice.
Yeah,
Go Frost week 1, take the 100 parse. Easy.
Because like it's not about damage, it's about your damage to threat ratio, right? Because you're trying to do as much damage as you can for the threat. So like what's most efficient is going to do the best. Plus the mana efficiency, of course.
Yeah. Unless you're doing the hard mode, in which case you could just stop DPSing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's VSX. Have fun, DKs. Yogg, this is a long fight.
Can we just skip the first phase?
Yeah, that's fair.
No.
Don't please don't run into the clouds, man. It is just, I feel like I didn't see it that often, but like in VODs especially, or like watching people, I think a lot of guilds are gonna rage so hard to people just running into the clouds. And like it's not a DPS race phase. To make it faster, you can spawn 2 of the guardians right away because like you're kind of ahead, but like you can easily overrun yourselves by running into the clouds.
Yeah, the 2 biggest tips for phase 1 is the cloud is even bigger than it looks. So if the cloud even gets remotely close to you, it will spawn an ad, which is really frustrating because we had people screaming week 1 that they swear they didn't spawn anything, even though chat shows that they did. And then a spell that we don't really use in PvE a lot, Strangulate, comes in clutch here because if your Warlocks and everyone else are not on it, as far as the interrupts go for phase 1, you can Strangulate from a distance. And it's really, really helpful because that Shadow Bolt volley in phase 1 does a lot of damage to your raid.
Strangulate the Warlocks, got it.
Listen, don't listen to these chumps.
When they go insane.
Don't listen to these chumps, men. You stand in that Serenite Vapor. You spawn those ads. That's cleave damage. You hear me, son?
It's gonna come towards the parses, so I bet like everyone's gonna try to greedy on them, right?
Oh, 100%.
Oh my god, I hate that.
I think on our first Zero Light kill, I literally just didn't go in at all as melee because our casters were doing enough damage to the point where I could just stand back, Icy Touch, Howling Blast when needed, and then cast Strangulate if it was needed.
Just to make sure it was very clean.
Yeah, it's there's nothing about DPS that matters in that phase, really. You just want to make sure that no one is spawning any extra ads because 1 or 2 ads could put your guild in a really disadvantageous position, and that's the last thing you want. You just want to go to phase 2 cleanly with no deaths, no battle res is used, and that's pretty much all you need from phase 1.
Yeah, a battle res used in phase 1 is like such a waste. Such a waste. Just don't.
You set yourself up for failure at that point. Like,
yeah. All right, phase 2. Bwah.
That's where it gets fun.
We have Crushers, we have Corruptors chilling. There's a Constrictor, and I'll put some portals somewhere.
Yeah, first of all, as Unholy, you're in Unholy Presence. That's nice, because you're running around like a... Yeah.
I'm also an Unholy as Frost. I think Unholy Presence for a large portion of this fight is quite helpful.
Yeah, for Frost as well.
You're gonna need the movement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless you have like the, what are they called? The flasks. I forgot the name.
Oh, Zanza speeds. Yep.
Yeah, unless you have a Zanza, you're gonna be in Unholy Presence.
I mean, I think that we could give an ultimate summary of this fight, us 5, but I think that anyone who plans on killing this boss, especially on 1 or 0 light, early on, should just go and watch as many videos as you can on it. But there are definitely some things that you don't want to do. Like, you want to save your defensives for when you're in the brain room. It does a lot of damage to you. Having AMS and IBF helps quite a bit.
Yes.
Making sure that you stare away from the skulls inside of the brain room is going to save your sanity so that you can pump it out in the final phase, which is important. And just save your offensive CDs as well. I feel like the biggest transition of mindset is going to be, especially for Frost DKs, like we want to use Unbreakable Armor and Blood Tap and ERW as fast as we can because in Nax, that's kind of what we're programmed to do. Whereas now on fights like this, we just want to save our CDs for when it actually matters. And on Yogg especially, it matters we can actually hit that brain.
Yep.
And even in the final phase too.
I also think this is another one of those fights where like you can make a very clear Unholy is just better on this fight in every way.
On 0 light or 1 light?
Zero light specifically.
Yeah, because one light.
I think one light unholy still a little better.
Yeah, but like it's not. It's basically the same thing. Like it doesn't really matter on one light. Like what is it gonna do much better on? Like.
Well, I mean, the big thing is being able to turn around and still do good damage.
I mean, good damage. You just have your diseases and your.
And your pet and D&D rolling. But another thing is also that this is one of those fights where Unholy gets free death strikes.
Yeah.
And also you've got Bone Shield up.
Yeah, that's definitely nice. But like, I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad. Like, cause like Frost does have like a lot more like in the second phase. Like,
On demand for tentacles. Yeah, I agree. Frost has got much better on demand damage if that's what you're struggling with. I think Unholy is what I felt much more comfortable playing in this fight. I just felt unkillable at all points. Like I felt like I could make way more mistakes as Unholy and still be totally fine.
Yeah, for sure. Like it definitely has like higher tolerance and like you're unkillable basically. You're like just a walking whatever you are. Like I don't know, but yeah. But like on zero light,
it is a fun fight for DKs. It feels good.
But on zero light, like you said, it's definitely like way better because the ads don't die.
Yep.
And there as well, Cinder Glacier might be worth it.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the damage, and you just keep getting more and more guardians, and you're just like spreading more and more diseases, and then like boom, Cinder Glacier proc 20%, just D&D, all of them.
And then the two-handed unholy copers come without D&D glyph and like with without morbidity. Like oh my god, two-hander is so good.
Scourge Strike out. Do not interact.
Like it's so funny because like, as Morp you basically have more like everything you need like by default. And go ahead, Sarthe. Sorry.
No, it's funny because like now with the nerfs to Gary, I've had more and more people come into my chat that have said that they've been playing Scourge Strike two-handed the entire time, and they're like, how are they going to compete? I was like, wait, what? Why have you been doing that?
And these people they've set themselves up to fail.
Like it got even worse for them, right?
Yeah, two-hander got hit harder than dual did. Like with the nerf.
Yeah, like I was saying like months ago, like Nex is actually a good place for two-hander because like the forset and shit, like the sigil is actually pretty good. Like once you go into Ulduar, you don't get any of that because two-hand dual with actually gets a set bonus they can benefit from, like the first one in the expansion. So that's nice, and you also like there is nothing that actually scales up with your score strike. So yeah, the gap just grows stronger, bigger, sorry. And yeah, and also like so many AoE fights where you just do better, like straight up.
There's so many fights where D&D is just gonna be so useful.
I can't imagine doing Ulduar without morbidity. You are at that point. It's not just like playing your own way. At that point, you are actively hamstringing yourself for nothing, right? Like
because like two-hander for them to use D&D like as a cleave ability is actually single target DPS loss, right? Like Morb, it's like literally their single target rotation, so they're gaining on AoE. Like they're just cleaving, like they're not losing anything once they AoE. So they're still doing their maximum single target like DPS potential, and they're still cleaving better than two-hander could. So like there's basically no argument against it. Like on single target, it wins by like 600, 700 DPS, sure, but it's even bigger once you AoE.
Yep, there's no trade-off. It's just pure upside.
Yep, I mean that was the whole thing about
it. For Yogg, do you guys have any like tips or tricks for people to focus on to make it easier or to do more damage?
Don't stand in the lasers.
It's just green beams.
Yeah. Stay away from the Crusher Tentacles and make sure that before you guys even attempt the boss, tell all of your Warlocks and Hunters to keep their pets off the Crusher Tentacles as well, because that will not only kill their pets, but also kill other raid members. I think most of the tips, though, are Phase 3, because once you learn Phase 2, I think that everyone should know what to do to avoid losing sanity and to properly do damage in the brain room and all that stuff. But Phase 3 is where the fight really becomes kind of a shit show, for lack of a better term.
Phase 3 is a race against time.
It is, and I think as DKs, since we do have a really easy on-use taunt, we may get asked to taunt one of the ads when the... what's the damn heal debuff called again? I don't remember. I don't know why.
I don't either. It's the heal debuff. I know what its icon looks like.
Yeah, the little green arrow above
Shadow
them.
beacon,
You'll
I
probably
think.
be called to rocket boot out while taunting an ad, so be ready for that. Make sure that you're not letting the boss heal. And as Frost and Unholy, I think that doing as much cleave damage as you can to keep all the ads small and at low percentage of HP pools is huge.
Yep.
There's an argument for both specs to use D&D in the final phase, assuming you don't need all that single target damage and your warlocks can come in clutch and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
use Howling Blast as much as you can, spread diseases as much as you can, and make sure that you're turning when needed.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, as
All
Unholy,
that's obvious.
as Unholy, for example, like on Yogg Zero Light, specifically, you're just going to be focusing the high ads once when Yogg is casting his shit, and like when he's not casting, you just turn around and hit the boss. Well, just maintaining your D&D and your diseases, and there's basically nothing else. Just swapping between the highest ad and the boss, and you're just AFKing for the rest of it, kind of. Unless you have to taunt something out. But I wouldn't really put Unholy on that, because Unholy does pretty well as melee. Maybe put like a Red Paladin on the taunting out.
Yeah, you want one of the bad classes to do that.
Red Paladins, like Hunters, can do it pretty well. What else?
Your Fury Warrior.
Fury Warrior, yeah. Yeah, Fury Warrior is not doing shit on that boss, so.
Yeah, they can't attack when they're facing away.
It's mostly going to be like on the top of the meters. It's mostly going to be Warlocks and DKs.
Oh, for sure.
and maybe, like-
Warlocks by a wide margin in phase 3.
Yeah. And maybe like what are they called? Like Fire Mages if they're spamming their oh my god.
Living Bomb, yeah.
Living Bomb, yeah. Because that also will be the single target DPS increase for him.
Yeah, but
Yep.
they don't have as much focus, right, as Unholy does, so like Unholy would do still better. So, but yeah. Because Unholy can cleave, maintaining the ads down and still focus like and have like their highest like single target DPS potential on one single target, right? So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. It doesn't really deteriorate you at all by cleaving.
And
Okay.
I don't think there's much else to this fight.
Same.
This is a lot of, like, you'll get better at this fight just from muscle memory, right? It's a very straightforward fight once you kind of break down the phases.
Yeah, a lot goes on in that fight, but like just run it and watch a guide and you'll get used to it.
Now for the best fight of this entire expansion.
Oh, really?
I fucking love Algalon.
Didn't we already talk about Auriaya?
He loves it too, mate.
Don't wait, Auriaya is not a boss fight.
All right, Algalon. Who wants to start? 1, 2, 3, not it.
It's basically
To be honest,
thumb.
as melee, you can definitely like. There is one mechanic that it puts bombs on the ground, and if you
Cosmic
are
Smash, yeah.
spread, if you are spread it out, like it'll be a pain for melees to even see them. It's one of the things like D&D hurts a lot. But yeah, if every melee is stacking to one side, when it comes out, you don't even have to look. Just go to the other side, and that's it.
Yep, yeah, so let's have your melee stack on one side, pick someone to stack them on, and then every single Death Knight, all your unholy Death Knights, if you've got multiple, have them drop D&D on the side you run to when Cosmic Smash goes out, and not on their feet. Because it will
Yes,
get
'cause
completely covered up.
It'll be the Kel'Thuzad Void Zones all over again.
Yep.
But yeah, when that comes out, you can literally just swap to the other foot of the boss. If you're not spread like that, if you're like spread just randomly throughout fight like DPS in the boss, you're just gonna drop cosmic splashes everywhere, and the tank's gonna run away and then accidentally run through like a black hole, and then you're gonna die.
Yeah, you want to, ideally this boss moves doesn't move at all. Ideally this boss just stands still the entire time. It's not a perfect world, but the most you can do to keep your raid from having to move around in this fight, the better.
Mhm.
And like with Cosmic Smash specifically, my nose is stuffing up again because my Sudafed is running out. Like Cosmic Smash has got kind of like a damage radius with how it works. There's 3 zones. There's the inner zone, which is a 6-yard radius. It's like basically 3 yards from like the center, I believe, in which you will get knocked up and die and take like 15k damage from the Cosmic Smash. At about 10 yards, it does like, I think it goes down to like 7k or something, 5k. And then at 25 yards, I believe, is the fall off, where it only does like 100 damage per smash. So like you don't need to move far to make smashes completely manageable. Most of the time, you're only going to be in melee range of 1 or 2 of them. So you just need to make sure you're moving out 10 yards, and then you don't have to keep moving.
And then you can AMS also.
Yeah, like AMS at 10 yards will absorb all the damage of it.
Yeah, but I
Perfect.
would probably keep AMS at for the what are they called?
Collapsing stars.
Yeah, I would
Yes,
most
that's
likely
true,
just
actually.
AMS that's because it's more consistent and safer, so you don't fuck yourself on the Cosmic Smash
Yeah.
if you just
It's also like
move too close.
collapsing stars is more dangerous in every way.
Yeah, so like it's a bit
Actually can kill the raid.
yeah. So just keep AMS for that, and you should be fine. It's more consistent, it's safer, and you're not risking like killing yourself. And plus, it helps the raid as well. So no reason not to do that.
The big thing to remember as well with these collapsing stars for a lot of these raids that are just trying it out is that you don't have to kill all of them. You won't like if you have 2 up when the next wave is going to spawn, it won't give you 4. It'll give you 2. You can only ever have 4 of them spawned at a time. So like just keep your pacing, don't overwhelm your healers on this, and as a melee your job is to just not take damage as much as you can.
Yeah, and like the main reason to kill them is usually just to stagger, so you don't have 2 blow up right after each other and wreck you. But
Yeah. Oh, also like a big thing is you should be kicking constellations as melee. Like we had warlocks handle it for the most part, like 90% of them. But if a constellation is near your stack, you need to kick because they hit hard.
you could make a focus macro for Mind Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also I have just a mouse over kick.
Yeah. Just reduce the raid damage. This fight is a lot of raid damage. A lot of raid damage goes out, and some of it is like all at once from like Living Bomb dying, or Collapsing Star dying, or like people getting hit by Cosmic Smash, but it's a lot easier to see now. But then also just like the raid damage from those living constellations that can just like womp you.
Someone said they have to be silenced to not kick. That actually that may be it. Because like I was just stringing them. I was not using. Because they're never in melee.
Okay. Are there any like tips to increase your DPS, or is it more about survivability? I guess you're not really like, it's a long fight. You kind of have a burn phase at the end, but you're not usually cleaving all too much, unless like a collapsing star was right there.
There's not a lot of cheesing to be done on this fight. You can get extra damage just being very good with how you're using your runic power with your AMS. But other than that, like this fight is very much a coordination fight. You're going to be focusing mainly on like moving for big bangs. You're going to be focusing on moving for cosmic smashes, moving for collapsing stars. You just need to be very focused on playing mechanically like sound on this fight.
Yep.
It is much less a DPS race. Even though it does have a strict DPS requirement, this fight, like you do need to do damage, but it is much more based around making sure you are playing mechanically sound here.
Yeah, I mean as DPS
Also
you're
gripping and sounding those spheres to make them go through the back rows, right? So
Yeah, you have someone kite the star or the constellations through black holes so they stop doing damage. They'll despawn.
yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
I've
usually-
seen fusion queues where they just boot and grip and sound the other one and hold them in place and have them pass through a black hole.
Oh yeah, Death
By
Knights.
doing that.
A lot of guilds will have a third tank basically, which is just a Death Knight that is DPSing otherwise, going Frost Presence and dealing with constellations because you can grip them.
And also, if a Whitewolf, if a constellation's following you and you run into the Big Bang first, it will clear the dark hole, the black hole, and everyone will die.
Yeah, you need to make sure, like, that's a big thing, is you just need to make sure you're not dragging constellations into black holes and killing your raid.
Okay, go for it, Whitewolf. Sorry.
yeah. Like I was going to say, like as melee, this fight is like ultimately just a long dummy, like with a few mechanics. So you're just moving a bit for the cosmic smashes and whatever. Just you can aim at the explosions, and like the rest of it is just like managing your cooldowns and shit. And like the most important thing is just having like good uptime, right? So you want to make sure you know where the black holes are going to be, so you can properly move out when the Big Bang comes out, and you want to stay on the boss for as long as possible. So you're most likely going to use your, if there is going to be 3 Big Bangs, you're just most likely going to use your nitros on the first one and then have it on the third one, right? And you try to make sure you have the most uptime, and there isn't really much else to do here.
Yeah.
As on hold there, like it's really straightforward. Like as DPS, it's like really an easy fight. Like it's just mostly tanks and healers who have to do the thing, and like whoever is killing the stars.
Yeah.
Like it was never a hard fight. They just made it hard with the DPS and like the damage to the tanks. And
Yeah.
that's it basically. Like mechanically, it's like one of the easier ones in Ulduar.
It actually is, especially now that you can see the room a lot better too. I think that was like a big struggle for a lot of people. Wouldn't notice the mechanics, like you wouldn't see the Cosmic Smash on the first PTR, but they made the PTR a lot clearer, so the room looks like kind of what people are seeing right now. You can see all of the mechanics very, very clear. Everything that's down on the ground is, you'll know like to run away from this fiery bolt or this fiery explosion on the ground. And he does still hit tanks really hard.
Yeah, so that's for week 1 guilds. Someone mentioned like going and getting your tanks geared in 10-man. The 1 hour timer, assuming you're a guild that got all hard modes down week 1, and you've got your key, the second you actually I don't know if we even tested if it starts when you first talk to him or when you open the door.
When you
Like
first fight him.
Okay, so yeah. So you can go farm your 10-man and come back to him.
Yep.
Like
Absolutely.
don't waste your time on him as guilds that are gonna have to progress on him. Or like because like guilds that are going for server first or world first are obviously just gonna like they practiced so they can take it on in the gear they've got, right? But like if you have limited time to actually progress on him, go farm 10-man.
Yeah. Also
Come back at the end of your raid night.
do it on tenements as well, so you can like get used to it and shit. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 10-man Algalon's way fucking easier.
Yeah, and seeing the fights in 10-man also helps translate it really well, I think. A big flaw or a hard part for most players is when you go into a new fight that you've never done before, even if you've maybe seen a video, you're not necessarily used to everything. And like if you die to a mechanic, then you know, oh, I shouldn't die to that. In 10-man, now you have the instance of like, oh, I got hit by this, but it didn't actually kill you. Now you know in 25-man that will kill you, so you know to not deal with that. So it can just really, really help. Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Is like if you get to Algalon, you're ready to do it, go do your 10-mans if you have the raid time and stuff, and then come back.
Awkward
There
silence.
was
Then you do that over and over, right?
yeah. Then you do it on your 9 different characters. It's gonna be a long weekend.
So they confirmed there will be the hour-long timer on live. It's just like that on
Yep.
PTR, so they can continue testing him.
Yeah, and in the talk that me, Jordy, and Crix had with them, they pretty much confirmed that the timer would start on talking to him,
Yeah.
not entering the room. So you're fine to enter the room and kind of get acquainted with the room, decide where you want to do things in position and stuff, and then you could start the fight.
What's the consensus, by the way, on the healing setup? 3 Holy Paladins? Or so?
I've seen more more people do 3 Holy Paladins on this fight than not. I'm not sure. Disc Priest, obviously, and I've heard very
Resto
good
Shaman.
that Resto Shaman is just phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So and that's a little bit of a early thing, by the way, though. For guilds that are not expecting to get Algalon down the first couple of weeks, Resto Shamans will be dog shit for you. Resto Shaman's strength lies in the fact that it's giving like super high uptime on damage mitigation on your tank. Or armor, like uptime. Which won't matter when your tank has got like 3 weeks of 10 and 25-man gear.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the tanks are still going to get clapped without that. It's like 10% damage reduction, but yeah. It's definitely going to get easier, but I would always want to have that on your tanks. Like, you're just griefing if you don't.
Yeah, it's much less needed. Like the shaman is much less needed once you get gear. It's like because it is armor that they provide, and because you are already getting very close to hitting armor cap from just the new gear, there is a very real like what's the word for it?
Plateau kind of how useful.
Yeah, like you're losing worth on the Resto Shaman rapidly as your tank's gear. Oh, it's actual physical damage reduction taken, not just armor anywhere. Okay.
It's 10%, 10% physical damage
Just a
reduction.
flat 10%. Okay.
So like
There you go.
will still be always worth it.
Yeah, it'd still be good. I thought it was still armor DR'd for some reason.
No, it's the same as this. It's same as inspiration. It's ancestral fortitude. I think it's
Okay.
10% flat damage.
Yeah, just 10% physical.
Do you see much of a reason to less late, or do you even when Algalon is on farm always kind of less the opener?
I don't think it matters, to be honest.
Does he reach?
Yeah, he does.
Yes.
So maybe you would lost the 10%. I think if that was the like I mean maybe before it, but like at the end, if he doesn't reach and it's hard to get through, but otherwise no point.
I think like if you're a warlock heavy guild and you're having troubles with like maybe getting the execute or you're dying to enrage, then you'd use it during execute. I think if your guild is having a little more issue with coordination, you'd use it early just to get through the harder part of the fight.
Yeah.
It's gonna come down to comp because like someone was saying like if you are running a guild heavy at execute damage, you're just gonna use it late. The only reason you use it early is just to get through the hard part of the fight faster.
Yeah. More damage on everyone's like buffs and whatnot, or like when everyone has every single proc rolling. But
Yeah, the fight also
warlocks
just gets
are really
way,
good. Yeah.
The fight gets way easier at 25%.
Yeah. I had a question for you, Whitewolf, and maybe for you, Fonzus, and actually all of you. So when running or looking at some of the trinkets next phase, I know Comets still are BIS, but the attack power trinket was looking good, and I might have had the wrong settings on the sim. I set it up very quickly.
Yeah, I was gonna go over that after we finished the bosses. I was gonna go over all the trinkets and everything.
Yeah, we've been doing some simming.
Yeah.
Then I'll
One
just
quick
whip
comment
up your
before you
screen.
start, Whitewolf. There is a bridge when you enter Algalon's room, and that is like the hardest mechanic in the boss to get everyone alive to the other side. Because like as soon as you talk to the boss, the room closes, and the bridge vanishes, and everyone on the bridge like falls into eternity and dies. It's impossible to battle has this person, and then you just have to wipe and do it again.
Yeah,
So
I'll make a prediction for everyone in chat right now. At least 50% of you are gonna watch your Resto Druid fall to death on that bridge while eating a fish feast on your first pull.
Resto Druid, okay.
It's always the Resto Druid in tree form, sitting down, eating a fish feast.
Should just give him his own food or something so he.
Oh, before we move on to looking at loot and stuff, is there any reason that you would see Enthozz or Whitewolf or even Deance to go Unholy or Frost? It seems like it's just this fight's kind of a loot pinata or like a pinata or whatever. But is there any reason for one or the other?
I think Frost ended up doing more damage on this fight. Unholy is very, very strong, like for everything else though. For being able to keep like good damage while you're dealing with constellations, if that's your job, just reducing damage you take because they have so much more passive like healing and damage mitigation. It's kind of gonna depend on what your guild needs, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like pure damage wise, Frost should do slightly better or don't.
Yeah.
Which fight is this?
Algalon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like long. If you sim it like next gear, like Frost does like 200 DPS more or something. It's like whatever.
Yeah, it's just gonna depend on like what your role is for this fight.
Yep.
If you are a strong mechanical player and your guild needs someone to help with constellations, play Unholy for this fight. If you are like, if you have somebody else who can fill that role for your guild and you just need to do as much damage as possible, go Frost. It's pretty much as simple as that. Like you fill the role that your guild needs on this fight because both are pretty good.
Perfect.
Now to the most important boss, Ignis.
I thought you'd never ask.
Oh, Ignis.
Yeah.
If only we could kite
Get
Ignis to every other
slag-pitted,
fight.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Ignis. So what's the what? How do you guys do it now? Do you do it in the pool or something? Does
Yeah, I just drag it to the pool.
Nice. So it works. He doesn't send you to the earth.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Yeah. Then basically just a dummy for the midis, so that's nice. Yeah. I mean, do we have to talk about this? Is there anything?
I don't think so. It's really that easy.
It doesn't really matter. It's the normal mode boss, so who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't even wipe on it. It's like such a quick and easy one. I didn't check if you can drag him out of the room. Did you guys? Because like, if you could just bring him to Razorscale while you're dealing with Razorscale phase 1. I guess you don't have the water, but I don't know.
It most likely would just murder you.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a fight you come back and do. If you're a racing guild, this is the fight you come back and do after you've already gotten Death's Demise.
Yeah.
That's true.
If you're like a dad guild, this fight is a footnote on like your night before like 20 Thorim wipes. So like you're not gonna remember this fight. No one's gonna remember this fight.
I mean, I would do this early on with like the most skills just to get the gear because the tank trinket is
Oh,
nice.
100%. Yeah.
There's a lot of nice gear on this fight. So
If you're not racing, you just kill quickly. There's no mechanics. Like it's
I mean,
you kill it.
99% of the people early on are just gonna kill it quickly. So, but yeah,
The tank trinket is very, very, very strong.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
crazy.
171 stamina, I think it is, and like there's a bunch of other
The new
good,
buff one, yeah.
bunch of
Yeah,
other good
and it's
items.
like almost 500 dodge on use for 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's basically a mini trinket, so that's amazing. And yeah,
It's like literally 10% mitigation for 20 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown.
yeah, the same you can pair it with the Royal Lane, whatever it's called, from Yogg-Saron, and like it's
10, yeah.
amazing. You stack them, and it's like basically a mini cooldown for Algalon's gonna help a lot. And yeah, they're both 20 seconds as well, so that's nice.
Razorscale, finally.
Finally,
it's the same thing. You just wait for him to come down,
Yeah.
and then DPS him.
Yeah,
I
it's
I
fight
noticed
sleep.
guilds that are doing it for the first time are probably gonna like in phase 2. You're gonna know that you're gonna need to kind of kite him because he drops a fire, but like he doesn't drop that fire on the ground very often. So like you don't really need to kite him very much. Like keep moving him. You just like whenever he drops the fire, move a little bit.
Oh, I loved tuning into random like PTR streams and watching dad guilds like trying their first PTR or pugs, just running him in circles without
Yeah,
stopping.
they're just like
I loved
always
it.
moving, and you're just like, you don't need it. He's not dropping any fire.
And I believe we actually confirmed that he picks his closest target to drop the fire. So if you have someone set like stand dead center of his hitbox or just to the right closer than anyone else, you can bait the fire.
Oh, clutch. Yeah. So then you never have to do anything really.
Yep.
nice. Just put your DKs there so they can AMS and they can change swap out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's actually a good tip.
yeah, and the rest
Yeah, fantastic.
doesn't really matter. Like, who cares? I mean, if you're pushing it, like if you're trying to push it in one phase, you're just gonna save your trinkets on the trash. And yeah.
Yeah.
But does the trash damage count? If it does, you're most likely not doing that. But like either way.
I
think
don't actually
so.
know.
I don't think so. I think
But you're most likely still going to do that
Just
because
on
you're
hit.
trying to save time and just kill it in one phase. Because like, who the fuck cares about parsing on this boss? I mean,
I'm not in a parse guild, so I never know what counts on like logs.
yeah. But like,
yeah,
honestly,
Enthozz,
Yes.
Enthozz.
Hi.
do you know what counts on logs on this fight?
I have no idea. I hope it's everything though. If it's everything, that
Oh,
makes it a
as
lot
a
more
frost
fun.
DK, yeah.
Of course. The Howling Blast, Death Chill procs are gonna be great.
if it's
That's-
everything,
I don't know what a lot of the parameters are for Ulduar surrounding the Warcraft log stuff as of yet.
Yeah,
I need to brush up on it.
they released it, and I meant to kind of like cover it in a video, which I probably will because it's just very simple to read through. But I just didn't read through it yet.
Okay.
We could do that live right now.
yeah. But
All
like,
right, someone link it.
but like also if the ads count, you can just tell the rest of your guild to stop DPSing, so you can just cleave for a bit longer and just parse like that. It's just super cringe in my opinion. So like,
Looks like ads
That
don't
would
count on
never
Razorscale.
happen.
yeah. So like, I don't think the ads
Okay,
should count.
cool.
What did you say? Sorry.
I was like, that would never happen. Who would do that?
Yeah, yeah, right.
Enthozz coughing in the background.
It looks like a lot of the ad damage on most bosses are removed from this article. I
Yeah.
can look at you guys.
I mean, it does make sense. Some
Yeah.
of the ads are useless. Like Algalon.
Yeah, I mean
none of them-
Freya, Auriaya,
Wait, what? Freya?
Razorscale. Yeah, Freya. Remove damage done to her only until the last time she heals to full.
I mean, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
It's just useless damage. You're just like as DK, you want to stick to Freya. Like when the ads are coming, you just want to keep DPSing her, just so you can keep your diseases up, so you can instantly pestilence when they spawn. But like nothing else.
Right. That's what I'm telling people to do.
Also, you can. I forgot to say, you can pre-pot. What's it called? On Unholy, you can pre-pot strength on that fight, so you can get your good D&D snapshot, the first one, when the first wave spawns.
Yeah.
But like, there's nothing
Nice.
else. It's just honesty.
Yeah.
And use what's it called? Immolation oil. Holy shit, it's so amazing. It's like 20 DPS. All oil of
oil.
all immolation, right?
Yeah, oil of God damn it. You got the two like English second language fucking people trying to say this fucking word.
It's not even my it's not even my second language.
Oh, it's second for me.
But yeah, that should be like 20 DPS, boys. So stack up on that.
Yeah,
It's like
that's actually pretty nice.
1 second of like worth of like D&D or something.